40 years ago, President Ronald Reagan signed into law a bill that profoundly and positively changed the U.S. and the world. Too bad the current White House is going in the opposite direction. Hello, I'm Steve Forbes, and this is What's Ahead, where you get the insights you need to better navigate these turbulent times. 40 years ago today, President Ronald Reagan signed into law the 1981 Economic Recovery Tax Act, the largest tax cut in American history. The bill slashed income tax rates for everyone. It increased incentives for business investment, allowed all working taxpayers to establish IRAs, that is, investment retirement accounts. It indexed tax brackets for inflation, which would prevent taxpayers from being pushed into higher tax brackets even though their real incomes hadn't gone up. It whacked the capital gains tax. It sharply boosted exemptions for the death tax. These cuts, when fully phased in, combined with the Federal Reserve finally ending the terrible inflation of the 1970s and early 1980s, kicked off a fantastic economic boom. This legislation was followed by a huge tax reform bill 5 years later, which also cut tax rates. The top tax bracket, for instance, went from 50% to 28%. Numerous and wasteful tax shelters were eliminated. The Reagan cuts were imitated in varying degrees by 50 countries. The global economy expanded. Between 1980 and 1990, the real growth alone of the American economy exceeded the entire size of the German economy, the third largest in the world. In other words, the U.S. from growth alone created the equivalent of the German economy. Because of the growth the tax cuts unleashed, federal revenues doubled between 1980 and 1990. The portion of income tax paid by top earners soared from 18% to over 30%. This astonishing performance, combined with the rapid, mighty rebuilding of our dilapidated military, led to an outcome that had up to then been considered inconceivable. That is, the peaceable collapse of the once mighty Soviet Union and victory in the Cold War. What a contrast to the 1970s. Before Reagan took office, the U.S. looked like a country in terminal decline. The economy was stagnant and inflation seemed unstoppable, with interest rates reaching 21.5%. Soviet communism seemed dynamic on the march as it established beachheads in Central America and took control of countries like Angola and Africa. Iran, once a U.S. ally, fell to extremist religious terrorists. One would think that the extraordinary turn of events of that era would have guided policymakers since. That is, the potent combination of low taxes and stable money. Yet even Republican presidents have sometimes faltered here. But their sins are minor compared to what we have now. A Democrat president and a Democrat Congress intent on enacting measures that will eviscerate the economy with higher taxes, numerous new spending programs, and potentially a 1970s-style inflation. I'm Steve Forbes. Thanks for listening. Do send in your comments and suggestions. I look forward to being with you soon again.